What up, everybody? It's your boy Lavell Vegas, Terrance G, George Zilla. We are three comic mafia, and this is Food and Laughter. Today's food is from Al Bashash. I hope I'm saying that right. I don't know. This is the second episode we didn't have this food, but man, we got some great food right here. It's Indian food. And Terrance, man, what type of food is this, Terrance?
It's the kefta kebab is what it is.
The kefta kebab food over the rice. We got some salad. We're getting a little healthy. Everything's good, and that is not vodka in the cup, though. It's straight water. But tonight's guest, he is part of the Just Relax comedy group. He done performed, man, everywhere. He actually performed in Denver. I got a show with him this Saturday. But by the time y'all see this, we'd already performed. Give it up for Brent Bradley.
Thanks, guys. I'm really excited to be here. Really excited to be here.
On, man. Now, you're the guest. We always say you get to dig in first. So go ahead and get in on the food.
This looks delicious, guys.
Give us some time to kind of wrap some things around the question. We'll give you time to kind of cut into the food, man. Tell us about Just Relax. Tell us what they got going on. Tell us how you got into that stuff, man. Like, we know that Just Relax is working. They're doing stuff. So I want to know how you got into it. I want to know how you guys started kind of working.
Yeah, I mean, really, it was just organic. We were hustling at mics together, and we were always at the back line together, and all of us enjoyed each other's comedy, and we noticed that we were just kind of always hanging out in the back together, bouncing jokes, chopping it up.
Before you go any further,
what up?
You say we, who?
Oh, yeah. So the group right now is made up of me, Noe Ramirez, Tyrell Frazier, and Rachel Ware.
Okay.
John Snyder was an original member of the group. He actually, shout out to John, moved out to New York.
Oh, wow.
Started doing comedy out there. Just got passed at his first comedy club like a month ago. So out there doing it. So that's exciting. And that's how we all kind of started. We were just hanging out in the back room, chopping it up in the green room, making each other laugh. And I think it was Tyrell had booked a show in Malvern, Iowa in January of last year. And he had just kind of started, and we were all hanging out. He was like, "Hey, do you guys want to be on the show together?" And as we were driving to the show, we were just, like dreaming and BSing, right? We're like, "Oh, what if this becomes a thing? Like, what if we got a group now? Oh, we better come up with a name, right?"
Sounds like us.
Yeah, and we were just kind of joking about it, and we had a real good show that night. David Kousgaard was on that show with us that first time. Brought him in as a special guest, and after the show, we had two different bar owners approach us that were close to the area. We're like, "Hey, what's the name of your group? Like, can we bring you guys out to our place?" And we were all like, "Oh, crap." We actually do got to kind of figure this out.
Right.
And it just kind of grew from there. We all enjoy each other. We get along well. And I think the biggest thing is we enjoy each other's company. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure just like you guys, right? Like,
All day.
yeah. So we had a real stellar first year. We did a bunch of out-of-town shows, kind of specializing in like smaller towns, right? Go in and give some comedy and laughs to people that don't ever get that kind of stuff. And
Absolutely.
yeah, it's just kind of grown from there, and went from that to having a show at the back line and doing shows out of town, and everybody's growing real fast, which has been cool to watch. Like,
Yeah, because just so you guys posted, man, you had Rachel just did a spot for Dave Attell.
Yeah.
And is now going to Kansas City, right? I understand.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that maybe people don't know, that if they're not into comedy, like people talk about Dave the GOAT, and they mean Dave Chappelle, but Dave Attell is another GOAT that doesn't get a lot of love. And so for somebody to get that type of recognition is huge. What do you think that's going to do for you guys as a group?
First of all, it's incredible. Like Dave Attell he's one of the comedy gods. You know what I mean?
He's a good guy.
He told,
great comedian.
it's insane.
It's very
just the way he ties things together. And he told Rachel to quit her day job.
Yep.
He was like, "I don't know what you're doing, but you need to stop."
Yep.
He was like, and you got to come with me next weekend. You're going to come open for me in Kansas City. And I mean, that's just for her. That's huge, right? And for the group, like, who knows? Who knows what that does? It gives some credibility, obviously, right? When you've got somebody of Rachel's caliber that can go out and do things like that. So, that's nice for that standpoint. But really, man, I'm just stoked for it. I'm happy. Like, I want to see my friends succeed.
See, that was one of those questions I wanted the sophomore to see how he'd answer, right?
Yeah, I mean,
It's a person gauge.
Yeah, you don't feel like it's like Justin Timberlake leaving in sync, do you?
No,
like,
no.
you don't
I mean,
like, you don't feel like that's Michael leaving Jackson 5. Like, well, what we gonna do? You know what I mean? Like,
that's funny. That's funny.
just bouncing out like, hey, bye, 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 and then she leaving. You know what I mean? Like, but no, that's good. I definitely the praise like one person. Especially, I mean, it ain't really about the group at that point. You know,
Right.
It's about what she does, and you know, you ain't trying to piggyback that. Which I can feel that it'd be nice to, but at that point, you're hoping your friend does good. And that would be the same if I would do it for them too.
Yeah.
They bounced. I wouldn't try to be like, hey, let me get a spot. I'd be like, man, go do the damn thing. And you know, everybody time will come, man. But,
Yeah, my hope is that my hope is that sooner or later we can only do 2 or 3 shows a year together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, my hope is that, you know, in 6 months she's on the road full time and she's doing it big, and we can get together and do some shows.
Hey man, I'm about to scratch that, man. She ain't here. This ain't her interview. This your interview, man. I'm done talking about that.
I brought it up because I want to see. I think Brent is a good dude, right?
is a
Like,
good
that's why
dude.
he's on here, and I asked that question because I think it's a great gauge to ask people, and I think that you gushing over the team and her says a lot about you, which I'm proud of the answer. You know, as a nobody comic, I'm proud of the
now I feel
answer. I
bad.
appreciate that. But the other thing is, man, let's talk about you and what you got going on at Emmett's and the things that you guys are building there.
Man, I'm real excited with not just what we've got going on, but this whole scene right now is starting to elevate. You know, so we host, me and Noe host an open mic at Emmett's on Tuesdays. That's really starting to gain some traction. We got a lot of comics coming out, and we're finally starting to get like people from the bar coming over and watching without us asking, right? They're just kind of, oh, what's going on? They're coming in and checking it out. That's been huge. I've got a new show that we launched in Council Bluffs at Maloney's Bar and Grill. It's going to be a monthly series. I know I got you on it in a couple of months, I think in April.
Yeah, I think you said he was paying me with 200
April
or
and
something.
May.
I'm hell on it.
We've got the wrong email, bro. That's one of them spam emails, you know, somebody hacked my ID.
Okay, my bad.
But-
I got to reread that.
That's always exciting, the new shows. and everything.
I'm really excited about that. We got a good setup with the bar. I linked up with this cat named Justin Strawstone, so he runs Nice Enough Entertainment.
Nice enough.
Yep.
Shout out to Justin, man. I know Justin, man. Cool
Does
dude.
a ton
man.
of stuff in the music biz,
Yeah.
and so
He's a cool dude.
I think with his connections and as much stuff as they do at Maloney's live music wise, that it's going to be a real good series. So
That's what's up. Man.
Heck yeah.
That's what's up. So what got you into comedy and what got you in Omaha? Because I know you ain't from here, man. I seen a picture with you with hair. I'm like, hey, maybe I seen that guy like on the street. One of them panhandlers like tell jokes for food, you know what I mean? But what got you into comedy, man, and what got you into Omaha specifically to start doing comedy?
So I've always loved entertaining. You know, I came from a real small school, so I had the privilege of doing a bunch of different stuff. So I was in sports, but I was in the musicals, I was in plays, I was in speech. And I knew at a young age that that's what I like doing. I like being on stage in front of people. But I was from a small town in Iowa, you know, like that whole, oh, you can be anything you want to be, it doesn't apply in the Midwest, you know what I mean? In your head, at least. And so I had to move. You know, I went to Spokane, Washington, then I spent some time in Austin, Texas. And when I was in Austin, I hit some comedy shows and I was like, man, this is cool. Like, I'd like to do this. And I was still like, nah, you're a dude from small town Iowa.
Yeah.
Moved up to Denver with my wife. And then, I mean, one day I was driving home from work. I was in a real bad financial spot. I was not in a good space mentally. And I had been looking at these open mics, and I was like, you know what? I can go home and I can be sad, or I can just go get on this stage and try this out. And I got on stage and I bombed so hard. I thought I did great at the time, right? We all think that.
Yeah.
But like, I look back and I was like, oh, it was bad. But I got off stage and I was like, this is it. Like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
You know, I think we talked about that before. People don't understand as comedians. A lot of us got started, man, because of something tragic or something in our life, and we found comedy to be our outlet to help us get over it, man. You know, like I said, I got stabbed and I became a comedian afterwards. You know, you can't get no crazy.
For 20th time. Thank you for telling
Well,
me.
it's a newspaper.
I ain't never been on.
Every episode, he done talked about getting stabbed. I done got stabbed, and we about to play the violin music because this dude done talked about it every time. But let's hear about it
He
again.
broke a toenail, and that's how he became a comedian.
No, I became a comedian. Y'all want to know my story super quick. I was working at Cold Stone Creamery. I actually knew a comedian, and we at Cold Stone Creamery, they got all the offices have. It's over there by Funny Bone. All the offices have meetings, and it was like, if y'all know anybody who wants to do the Clash, blah blah blah. So I tried to sign my friend up, and Daisy hits me back. It was like, no, you can't sign your friend up. Either you go on or nobody goes on. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna try this, man. So that was my first gig, was the Clash of the Comps. I never did an open mic. I never did no open mics, nothing. First gig was at the Funny Bone, and it was trash. And I invited, and it was like no BS. I invited like 30 people. Told them it was free. My mom was there. My sisters was there. Everybody was there. And when
Your own crew doesn't even laugh at you.
Man, literally 30 people were there. And if you don't hear no laugh and you brought 30 people, you know you suck. And I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna do this again, man. But here I am. But you know, it is what it is. That's how it goes, man.
Well, that's my first time hearing this story. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Wah, wah, wah.
I mean, I never heard that story. You never told that story.
So we don't talk, man. Terrance, man.
You asked me how I made it to Omaha, right? I
I was just gonna say, so
Sorry about that, man.
No,
Sorry.
I started in Denver. Well, like we're gonna break this fight up right now, right? But I started in Denver, and then I was excited. It was a cool scene. It's way different than Omaha, you know. It's
It is.
It's a big scene. It's harder to get stage time. And then when I found out I was moving here, I was like, oh no, right? Like I'm gonna go to purgatory. Like how am I gonna continue this? And then when I moved here, I jumped into an open mic, and I was like, oh, okay. There's a scene here, and I think actually, credit to the Omaha scene. Like I think it made me better, faster moving here, because the opportunities are there. You know, I'm getting 5 minutes at mics when you're starting out instead of 2 to 3. I can go to a mic and sign up on the list, and I'm going when I signed up, right? If I signed up at 3, I'm going at 3.
You're guaranteed to go.
Yeah, in these bigger cities, you know, you'll go sign up at a mic, there'll be 60 names on there, and even if you're first, if the host doesn't know you, they're thinking of this as a business, right? So like, I'm putting some bangers up first, maybe an edgy guy, some bangers, and then if you're new, you might get there at 7 and you're going at midnight, you know? And there's a thing to that too, right? Like making sure we're dedicated and we want to be there, and you know, there's some proving grounds there. But
it happened to me in Atlanta, but not really that, but it was actually the opposite. Cause they were like, "You from where?" I'm like, "From Nebraska." And this is my first 6 months, and they was like, "You came all the way here to do this open mic?" I'm like, "Well, I was visiting my family, but I saw this open mic here, so I came to sign up." They was like, "All right," and they let me go up like one of the first ones since I was from Nebraska, and I know that'll never happen really, because even when I went to Arizona and I tried to do open mic, I was like, I know I signed up way before this dude that just came up here, and I ended up not even doing open mic. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just focus on the show I got down here.
It's funny that you mentioned the purgatory aspect, because I kind of felt like that moving from DC, right? Been a big scene. I'd been working out there for a while. You know, been up to New York. I had done, you know, shows along the coast and everything, and moving out this way, I was like, that. I don't know how I would step into this and still grow, but you find a way to grow. You find that avenue, and you were actually one of the first comics I kind of brushed into. It was like you, Ethan, and a couple other cats, and I didn't know you guys well and everything, and it was just one of those things that I'd seen you guys and I was like, okay, I'll be all right. I will be okay. Because Blevins was another one who I had ran into as well. Shout out Matt Blevins. And it was just one of those things, like, okay, things will be okay.
So Brent, let me ask you a question. How long have you been doing comedy, man?
I think realistically, you know, I tried to figure it out with COVID and everything like that. You know, I wasn't up for quite a while. Right at like 2.5 to 3 years, somewhere in there is where I've been at it. Feels like a lot longer.
I thought it was a little longer.
But yeah, it's hard. You know, like you see where you want to be, you see where you are, and you're like, it's not like I can't train harder and work harder and make it there faster, right? There's no shortcut. It's just time, and so it's
definitely time. You just got to be, you know, be persistent. You know, don't you say that? But as long as I've been doing it, it does take time to get that recognition, man. Because you got to keep putting in the time, man. But you know, just 2-3 years, man. Like I think a lot of y'all, man, that's been doing it for 2-3 years, man, is I think it's remarkable how fast everybody's progressing. Back then, like I said, it'd take almost 10 years to even get a little bit of recognition or somebody to book you or something like that, unless you stand out and you're really good. You know, I was blessed, you know what I'm saying, to just jump in there, and I didn't do no open mics when I first started. I just went straight to a show, and from there, it carried on. So, but the guys that's doing it for 2-3 years, man, and the level y'all doing it, man, I think is astonishing.
I think there's a change. You know, there's been a shift probably in the last 5 to 10 years. I haven't been around that long, obviously, but just being even from the outside looking in the mentality, right? Like it really used to be a feast or famine mentality, right? Like, nah, I got to get mine. Like I can't help you out. I'm not here helping you write jokes and stuff like that. And it's definitely it's a more supportive atmosphere, I'd say now, right? Like we're back and we're bouncing stuff off of each other, and everybody's got different views, right? Like some people are like, I don't want to get attacked from anybody. Like my jokes are my jokes. I want to feel good about that. But man, me, you know, like I like bouncing jokes off people, especially that have different backgrounds, right? Like you're going to look at a joke that I've written and you're going to see an angle that I'm not going to see because of the experiences you've had. And that doesn't mean I can't take that angle and talk about it, but I would have never gotten there without somebody, you know?
Well, I remember the first time I seen you, I was like, man, I was blown away. I was like, this dude here.
You know, we're trying. I mean,
Man.
my thing has been I've been trying to be as consistent as possible, you know, and so like I'm trying, you know, I'm at Mike's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm trying to book shows on a Friday and a Saturday. I'm trying to be on stage like 30 times a month at least is what I'm shooting for, you know, and it's hard because, you know, we don't have a lot of double mic nights anymore. And
you about to throw a wrench in the system too.
I got a baby on the
I was
way.
about to
Yeah,
say
I
that.
got a
How
baby
you
on the
doing?
way.
I think that's the hardest. When I first started doing it, I was at Mike's. Man, I used to go to Lincoln, and like both Mike's in Lincoln. You know what I mean? Come down, do that. I was doing it. As soon as my son was born, I was like, oh man, I ain't even. I don't even know last time I went to like, you know what I mean? And I wish I still, you know, had to keep going to Mike's as consistently as I was, because I just had a better flow. And now I still have a flow, but I gotta hit those mics, man. And not saying I did bad this past weekend, but these guys
I heard
came with it. They came with the jokes, but I came with joke in, and I was like, I gotta start hitting mics. You know what I mean? I can't psych myself out because I see a crowd. And do you ever do that? Do you ever see a crowd and be like, oh man, like maybe I should switch this up? Do you have certain jokes for certain crowds? And we'll just put it out there, because we know black crowds is black crowds. You know what I mean? That's not that. If you impress the black crowd, you impress anybody.
You in there.
Yeah.
You in there. You can impress anybody. But does that give you like, hey, I need to switch it up? Maybe I shouldn't talk about my poodle tonight, or you know what I mean, or anything like that? Or do you just, hey man, they think I'm funny. They think I'm funny. I'm coming with what I got.
It depends on the mentality I'm in.
Okay.
And so I got the privilege finally. I was down in Texas, got booked on a show, and it was the first black room I'd ever performed in.
I like how you said privilege. We keep going.
It was exciting to me, right? Because
Yeah,
I want
so I know.
I want my comedy to be able to. I want to be able to go anywhere and make anybody laugh, right?
Absolutely.
But I know that there's a difference, right?
Yep.
And so I did well. I'll say that. You know, we talked about this off camera. You know, I did well, right? I didn't bomb. I got some good laughs. But I noticed that anytime I went into a bit that was obviously like I'd written it out and it was planned, like even if it was a true bit, like a lot of mine are, they would pull back just a little bit, right? They were like, I don't want to see your song and dance. They want to see that authentic version of you. And it's that, like, prove it, all right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm here,
Definitely
make
been
me
there.
laugh. And that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that. I didn't change anything up that night. I did a little bit, like, I did a lot of material I can't do in front of all white crowds, right? Because sometimes people, they pull back when I'm talking about, you know, race experiences that I've experienced in my past that are not even remotely bad or edgy, but they just kind of they're like, I don't know if I should laugh at that, right? And so I was like, oh cool, I'm gonna try some stuff that I haven't tried before, and it went well, and I was like, okay, right, like I'm excited about that. Now there have been a lot of times where, like, if I'm, you know, second or third, we're in front of a crowd that's all 60 and up. Yeah, I'll watch and I'll go, oh, they're not gonna like these jokes. Okay, we'll switch them up a little bit, but I try not to, because then I wig myself out.
I always tell people now, like, as you writing, you know, I try to find a middle balance in my jokes now. So wherever venue I go into, it doesn't matter what the crowd is. I should be able to relate to just about everybody if I stay in the middle bounds. And I think like I tell a lot of young comics, in order to do that, the best way to do it is talk to something that's more relatable to yourself. You know what I'm saying? Because one, can't nobody steal your material if it's about you. And then two, it's relatable. Everybody can understand. You know what I'm saying? So I try to stay in the middle balance. Do you kind of write like that sometimes, like to stay in the middle, or you just write to what you?
I do have a lot of stuff that's just personal, but that's been a change in the past year, and I think that's probably something that most new comics go through. Right, we always talk about people starting blue, right, and it's super crass, and I want to be as edgy as possible. And for me, it wasn't. I was never edgy, but I was inauthentic, I guess I would say, right? Like, I was like, oh, this seems funny. I'm gonna do this. And when I started doing more like vulnerable stuff, right, about like my depression and my ADHD and getting bullied as a kid, like all of a sudden I'm getting bigger pops, and I'm like, oh, it's because it's relatable. Like, even if you haven't gone through it, you know somebody that has. Absolutely. And it just took, it took a while for that to click. And that's what I've been trying to, like, the same thing when I talk to comics, and I'm 3 years in, like, by any means. I shouldn't be giving advice to anybody anyway, but when they're like, hey, what do you think? And I'm just like, if I could, I'm going to tell you exactly what I wish people had told me, and that's be vulnerable and personable. Like, open up.
Absolutely.
And it's going to get, it's rough. It's not easy. But like you said earlier, it's our therapy, right? It's how we deal with stuff. Right?
It's because the crowd, like I said, when you open up, they feel like, okay, you're trusting me. I can come in your world. You can sit there and everybody can relate and kumbaya together. So I get that, man.
Yeah. So you're talking about being open and vulnerable and personal. What man in the comedy scene have you thought about making love to the most?
Ooh. I ain't shying away from this one.
I didn't think you would. So.
I think the easiest answer was Jake Parker. But he moved.
He doesn't get the love anymore.
Yeah,
he moved to Denver.
He moved to Denver. Yeah,
he ascended.
But like, that's probably the most vanilla answer ever, right? Like, not even the fact that he's white.
It's almost racist that you answered with Jake Parker, right?
Yeah. Nick Krzyzewski's got beautiful eyes. He's a Lincoln guy.
All right. Yeah, I just had to throw out a wrench out there, man.
I was going to throw out another one, but it's nah.
I don't want y'all to throw no more wrenches.
He ain't ready.
Stop throwing them.
Don't throw. And we got to have some laughter in there at some point.
Yeah, I know.
What's been fun, because we've talked about it, man. I think one of the funnest things about this, personally, is we get to, we get to talk to the men and the women behind the comic, and we get to find out the deeper things that make them tick. And so, you talk about the ADHD and you talk about the depression. I want to talk about something else that kind of goes into your comedy. The guy put his nards on your pizza. like that's a real story. Like, for those that don't know, in TV land, this guy walked in on somebody putting nards on his pizza.
It's a true story.
If to this day, if you Google Brent Bradley, Papa Murphy's Pizza, the first thing that pops up is this news story from Georgetown, Texas.
Straight up, man.
And I'm still trying to figure that story out on stage, like trying to figure out how to do it and punch it the right way.
They're so hard. Like, stories like that, like my HIV story, right? That we kind of like just really funny, that you're trying to
take my glasses off for this one.
Folks, you got to pay for tickets to come out and get these stories, but they're hard to
Bruh.
because, like, once you get that one little snap that makes it relatable, it punches.
Yes. Do you want the abbreviated version of that story?
Hold on, talk about. Because I don't know how NARS on a pizza is relatable, and I damn sure don't know how HIV is relatable.
Just saying. Like, we all have our stories. We all have our stories is all. So
we just did a 6-hour round trip, and we didn't hear nothing about HIV, and you passed me some water and said, is it mine? And now I'm thinking, like, maybe it is. And I don't want to drink out of it. But all right, man.
I like how he's over here pretending like he ain't heard the joke. I don't know what you're talking about.
He's never paid attention.
No, I paid attention.
It's hurtful.
No.
This is very hurtful.
Oh, that was hurtful. Okay. we let you tell the NARS story real quick, man.
Oh, I'll speed. Yeah, so basically one night, my wife and I were in Texas. She was pregnant, my ex-wife.
Oh, that makes it even worse.
That
makes it even worse.
You told me this story. I guess you could tell Zilla.
Well, no, just the fact that she's pregnant, he's going out to get a food run on top of this, and it was a miserable marriage because it's the ex, so it's just a bad situation.
It's like 8:50 at night, right? And she's like, I want Papa Murphy's Pizza, and I'm like, they close at 9. The closest one's like 8 minutes away, right? And so I call these fools and I'm like, hey, I've worked in the service industry. I get it. It's late. Have you guys cleaned up? If not, I'd like to order some. If so,
I've been there, right? This
I'll
is
be
a
gone.
good thing to do. It's a
Yeah.
big guy move.
And,
The
and
best
they're like,
guy move is not to go. That's why
I'm just saying it's a good guy move.
have you ever told a pregnant wife no?
I have been. I slept on the couch that night, so I understand. One day I slept in the car that
We had a
night.
lumpy couch. We had a lumpy couch. I couldn't risk it. And the guy's like, no, go ahead, right? So I fly there, but I get there in like 3 minutes. Like it was way faster than the GPS said. And I pull up on the side. If you guys have been to Papa Murphy's, it's like a Subway, right? They're making your pizza behind the counter.
Right.
And so I walk in, and this guy's standing behind the counter, facing the door still, with his
Yep.
junk out on my pizza. Like I can see it.
Yeah, that's the story. Yeah,
True story.
the true story.
Yeah, and the kid, like I walk in, he looks up and he zips and he just walks to the back room like I didn't see what just happened.
If I don't, he tried to play like a T-Rex move. Like if I just go silent and I don't move, he won't see me.
That is ridiculous. Every time I hear that story, it's ridiculous.
I'm amazed that you're free and you. Because somebody had to do that to me, man. I think I'd have been locked up because I'd have been back there.
Yeah, that is.
Well, here's the problem. I drove there and we had just gotten off the lake. So I'm not going to say that I was inebriated while driving because I would never do that. But there were adult beverages on the boat that I feel like I absorbed. You know, like a contact high. I think that happened. So I was like, well, I can't go to jail.
It absorbed through the bottom of the water in the boat. Into your toes.
Yeah.
I'd have been back there that next day, though. I'd have been putting my NARS on his.
So
Man.
what I felt bad about was I didn't feel bad at the time. I was on my way home and I dealt with this kid, right? He gets fired in front of me. It was great. I got to hear it on the phone.
Fantastic.
And but I'm on my way home and I'm still a little contact drunk. And I was like, you know what? Screw that kid. And I called the cops because I'm like 22. And I was like, hey man, I want to report this. Like my wife's pregnant. Like, you know, and I was a paramedic. So like, you know, there's like some nasty stuff going on, right? And I don't want my wife to get sick.
Absolutely.
And but what happened? That's how the news story came out, right? So then the cop was like, "Do you want to come give a report?" And I was like, "Absolutely not." I do it over the phone. And then the next day, boom, it's a public record. So news stories are writing they're writing news stories about this kid who did it, but then like dragging me right in the comments. Like these guys are, oh man, they're saying the most hurtful things, right? Because
I didn't drag you, but you had nuts on your pizza.
well, to be fair, because like I was a narc, I called the cops. You know what I mean? Like,
So-
I would have drugged me to it. If I was 32 and I saw a kid do this, I would have just lit him up. But
So where else can people find you then, Brent? Outside of the Google to get the story. Where else
Yeah.
can we find you? What socials you got?
so I use Facebook a lot. It's just Brent Bradley. That's my Facebook, and I'm welcoming all those followers and friends. But my Instagram is Brent Bradley Comedy. My TikTok is Brent Bradley Comedy. It's all branded the same. So
Thanks,
yeah.
brother.
Well, we appreciate having you on, man.
Absolutely.
Appreciate the stories. I'm definitely. I didn't know it was on Google, so now I'm gonna go Google that.
I'm definitely
I'm
going
definitely gonna Google that.
I'm not even going like the
You're
parking
gonna see the
lot
kid's
first.
mugshot and be like, "That looks like a dude that put his
I'm
balls."
gonna sit right in the parking lot still looking at it up like I'm not driving until I read this.
But hey, man, we appreciate you having you coming on, man. It's been another episode of Food and Laughter. Appreciate the food and have a fantastic night.
Yeah, yes.
That is, I forgot that story.